Let me ask you something. When was the last time you bought something you didn't actually need? Not because you wanted it, but because someone else had it. Maybe it was the new phone your colleague pulled out at lunch. Maybe it was the vacation photos your friend posted that made you book a trip you couldn't really afford. Maybe it was just a pair of sneakers that you never thought about until someone showed up wearing them. Here's the strange part. You're a smart person. You know your budget. You understand, at least on some level, that your money has limits. And yet somehow, something invisible took over your decision-making and you spent anyway. That invisible force has a name, and today we're going to talk about exactly what it is, how it works inside your brain, and why it might be the single biggest reason most people never actually build wealth. Because this isn't about willpower. It's not about being bad with money. It's about something much deeper, something that's been shaping human behavior for thousands of years. Most people think their spending problem is simple. They say things like, "I just need to stop eating out so much," or "I'll save more when I earn more," or "I just need a better budgeting app." And so they download the app, they set the budget, they feel good for about 2 weeks. Then life happens. A birthday dinner, a group holiday, a new season of fashion, and suddenly the budget feels less like a plan and more like a punishment. Here's what nobody tells you. The real battle isn't between you and your spending. The real battle is between you and your social environment. We are wired deep in our biology to compare ourselves to other people. It's not vanity, it's not stupidity, it's survival. For hundreds of thousands of years, being part of a group meant staying alive. Being left out of the group meant danger. And so our brains evolved to constantly scan. Where do I stand? Am I keeping up? Am I falling behind? That instinct kept your ancestors safe on the savannah. But in the modern world, with Instagram feeds and coworkers driving new cars and neighbors renovating their kitchens, that same survival instinct is quietly draining your bank account every single month. Let me introduce you to something economists call relative consumption, or what the rest of us might simply call keeping up with the Joneses. The idea is this: people don't just care about what they have in absolute terms. They care about what they have relative to the people around them. Here's a simple example. Imagine two worlds. In World A, you earn $50,000 a year. Everyone around you earns $40,000. You're doing better than most people you know. In World B, you earn $100,000 a year, but everyone around you earns $150,000. You're doing worse than most people you know. Now here's the question researchers have actually asked people. Which world would you rather live in? Logically, World B, right? You have more money, more buying power, a better life on paper. But study after study shows that a surprising number of people choose World A, not because they're irrational, but because human happiness isn't just about absolute wealth. It's about relative position. It's about how you feel compared to the people in your life. And marketers, by the way, know this better than almost anyone. Think about how luxury brands advertise. They don't say, "This watch tells good time." They show you the watch on the wrist of a successful, admired person. They're not selling a product, they're selling a position. They're selling the feeling of being ahead, being seen, being respected. And your brain, the same brain that helped your ancestors survive by reading social hierarchies, responds to that deeply. This is the trap, not a budget problem, not a math problem, a psychology problem. Let's go one layer deeper, because this is where it gets really interesting. Psychologists have a concept called social proof. The idea is simple. When we're unsure what to do, we look at what other people are doing and assume that must be the right thing. This is incredibly useful in a lot of situations. If you're in a new city and you're looking for a good restaurant, you check reviews. You look for the place with the longest line. You assume other people have figured it out. But social proof doesn't switch off when it comes to money. In fact, it might be most powerful there, because money decisions are often invisible. You can't see someone's savings account. You can't see their debt. You can't see that the person driving the BMW is making minimum payments on it every month and has almost nothing saved. All you can see is the car. All you can see is the holiday photos, the new kitchen, the designer bag, the round of drinks they insisted on buying. And so your brain does what brains do. It takes the visible evidence and builds a story. These people are doing well. I should be doing what they're doing. The problem is that the story is almost always wrong, because what people show on the outside has almost nothing to do with what's actually happening on the inside. There's a famous phrase, often attributed to personal finance circles, that captures this perfectly. We buy things we don't need with money we don't have to impress people we don't even like. A little harsh, but not entirely untrue. Here's the insight that changes everything. Wealth, real wealth, is almost always invisible. Think about that for a second. The person at your office who you assume is struggling because they drive an old car and bring lunch from home, they might have 6 months of expenses saved, a growing investment portfolio, no credit card debt, total financial freedom quietly building in the background. And the person who seems to be thriving, the flashy clothes, the nice apartment, the constant talk of new purchases, they might be one emergency away from real financial stress. This isn't speculation. Studies on wealth consistently show that many high-income earners are actually poor savers, and many moderate-income earners, those who live below their means and ignore the social noise, end up with significantly more wealth over time. The author Morgan Housel puts it this way in his writing on wealth psychology. The most important financial skill is getting the goalpost to stop moving. Because if your expectations always rise to match or chase what the people around you are spending, your savings rate will always be zero, no matter how much you earn. This is why raises often don't make people wealthier. They just upgrade the lifestyle. The car gets better, the apartment gets bigger, the dinners get more expensive, and at the end of each month, the savings account looks almost identical to before the raise. Psychologists call this lifestyle inflation, but it's really just the social pressure trap in slow motion. Here's another way to think about it. Imagine you're filling a bucket with water. Every month, your income fills the bucket, but the bucket has holes in it, your expenses. Most people focus almost entirely on how fast the water is flowing in. Get a better job, earn more, find a side income. But social pressure is quietly making the holes bigger. Every new standard you adopt, every lifestyle upgrade you make to match the people around you is adding another hole to the bucket. The water level, your actual wealth, stays the same or even falls, no matter how fast you pour. The only way to actually fill the bucket is to stop the holes from growing. And the biggest hole for most people isn't their grocery bill or their streaming subscriptions. It's the invisible cost of trying to look like someone they're not. So what do you actually do with this? First, become aware of triggered spending. Before you make a purchase, ask yourself one honest question. Am I buying this because I genuinely want it or because I saw someone else with it? You don't have to be perfect, just honest. That pause alone can change a surprising number of decisions. Second, curate your comparisons deliberately. You can't fully escape social influence, and you don't need to, but you can choose who you compare yourself to. Instead of comparing your lifestyle to people who are spending freely, start paying attention to people who are building quietly. Seek out stories of people who live below their means and are building real security. What you absorb consistently shapes what feels normal to you. Third, make your own financial goals as visible as possible. The reason social pressure works so well is that other people's purchases are vivid and immediate. You can see them, but your savings account is abstract and invisible. So make it real. Name your savings goals. Track them somewhere you look regularly. Give yourself a concrete vision of what you're building. The more real your own goals feel, the less power someone else's car or holiday has over your decisions. Fourth, understand that wealth is a long game played quietly.
The biggest returns in personal finance don't come from dramatic decisions. They come from boring, consistent, invisible choices made over years. The person who invests a small amount every month for 20 years without telling anyone, without any flashy milestone moments, they often end up far ahead of the person who earned twice as much but spent it matching their environment. Here's the thought I want to leave you with. Every time you spend money trying to close a gap between where you are and where someone else appears to be, you're running on a treadmill. The gap doesn't close, it just moves, because the people you're comparing yourself to are comparing themselves to someone else, and that person is comparing themselves to someone else. The treadmill has no end. But every time you spend or don't spend according to what you actually value, what you're genuinely building toward, you step off that treadmill entirely.